Right. Welcome everyone. I want to welcome you to one of the first tapings that we're doing of a regional training session that Delmarva offered around the state just recently in the months of November 2010 and December. This session covers CDC Plus and the Quality Assurance Program. And we'll be taking you through a number of slides and handouts, so we appreciate you taking the time to view this. Just to provide some introductions, my name is Teresa Skidmore. I'm one of the regional managers with Delmarva. Up here in a few minutes, you'll be able to meet Charmaine Pillay. The person providing our video feed for you and taping this is Mr. Aaron Nangle with waiverprovider.com, and we appreciate Aaron helping us out with this. The purpose of this training that Delmarva offered was to provide and describe the Delmarva discovery process, provider discovery reviews and person-centered reviews. We like to call them PDRs and PCRs. We want to describe and review sample forms and documentation that CDC representatives are required to keep in their file and answer questions. We're hoping any of the information we can provide here will answer questions that you may already have. So as we go through these slides, we will reference a number of handouts. The handouts will be numbered on the slides in the presentation, but we will also be posting these handouts along with the presentation. So you'll be able to download and view each of the handouts as we go through them. And the key part that we're trying to do here is provide representatives with real solid information as to what it is that Delmarva and our quality assurance aspect for the CDC program will be looking for when we come out to meet with you, possibly for a review. I'm going to introduce Charmaine Pillay to give a little bit, oops, nope, I'm telling you, I'm not introducing her yet. First, I'm going to take you through a little bit of a background on the Consumer Directed Care CDC Plus program. CDC Plus began in Florida back in 2000. It was a research and demonstration waiver. It was kind of a test run to see if this was a program that was going to work well here in Florida. In March 2008, CDC Plus became a permanent Medicaid state plan option. The program was approved for expansion, and currently there are approximately 1,552 CDC Plus participants. And I think even since the time we did this PowerPoint, that number has even gone up. The program is very popular and is quickly trying to find ways to expand. The CDC Plus participants are included in Delmarva's sample for what we call person-centered reviews. And effective October 1st, CDC Plus representatives are included in Delmarva's sample for provider discovery reviews. The key part with the CDC Plus program is now that it's a Medicaid state plan option, is that they needed to provide some quality assurance and oversight to ensure that Medicaid dollars are being spent correctly and that people in the program are following rules and have their documentation available to them. So that's a little history on the CDC Plus program. If we go to the next slide, we can tell you a little bit about Delmarva Foundation, and here's Charmaine Pillay.
Thank you, Teresa. Just to give folks a brief history about Delmarva Foundation, Delmarva has actually been conducting quality assurance reviews in the state of Florida since 2001. During that period, we've conducted thousands and thousands of interviews with individuals, with family members, with providers, and a ton of data was collected. Since then, Delmarva was awarded the new contract beginning January 1st of 2010, and that was accomplished through a competitive bid process. 3 organizations participated in the bid, and Delmarva was fortunate enough to win the bid. The contract activities for this current contract are a little bit different than they were over the past 8 years, where we conducted quality assurance reviews for the DD waivers, the developmental disabilities waivers. For this particular contract, it includes the CDC Plus program. So it's a little bit different than it's been in past years. The current 4-year contract is managed by the Agency for Healthcare Administration. Why is Delmarva going back and conducting provider discovery reviews with CDC Plus representatives? That's a great question, and a little bit different than we have been doing things from the way we have been doing things from the beginning of this contract. Originally, when a person was included in the sample for a person-centered review, their representative automatically participated in that person-centered review and received a review of their documents. However, what we have found is that when an individual declines to participate in the person-centered review process, the representative automatically fell out because the person declined. This, however, did not offer the state enough information to review this program and to find out how things are going for individuals on the CDC Plus program. To that end, the review process was switched so that representatives now receive a provider discovery review even if the person declines to participate in the person-centered review process. This allows the state to see how things are working for people and whether they are satisfied with the services, how is the program going, and offers folks to get an opportunity to see where changes might need to be made. Next.
All right, to get things started, I just want to provide an overview of the discovery process. Delmarva, with this new contract, we took on the role, as Charmaine mentioned, of discovery in this contract. So that means we go out and we look at documentation and we discover the information. We do that by conducting person-centered reviews, which assesses support delivery systems from the perspective of individuals who are receiving the services. The provider discovery review evaluates provider performance based on service delivery measures and program standards. So one takes it from the perspective of the person who's getting the services and how are things going from their perception, and the other really looks at the paperwork piece, the compliance, looking at your documentation, ensuring what needs to be there is there and that the paperwork is complete. So Delmarva has these two processes that's occurring. The first session that we're covering right now is going to go over the provider discovery review. And the big change that Charmaine referenced in the slide previously is that we are now doing PDRs, provider discovery reviews, with CDC Plus representatives. And again, that mindset that they play a critical role in helping manage and oversee the Medicaid dollars that go into the CDC program, and really are a key part of that participant being successful in the program and being able to accomplish those things that are important to them. So if we go to the next slide, just to understand a little bit, how do people get reviewed? What's the selection process? Everyone just kind of wants to know, well, why did you pick me? Well, I can tell you that for this provider discovery review with CDC Plus, representatives get sampled based on the individual who's their participant. So if you are a CDC representative and your participant gets randomly selected for a person-centered review, that will identify you for a provider discovery review. And the big change that took place over these last couple of months was that even if the individual, the participant, might decide, I'm not comfortable doing a person-centered review, and they may decline participation, at that point in time, the representative has been identified for a provider discovery review. And that part is not optional. That is not something that the representative can choose to decline. So that is how a CDC rep gets pulled into potentially getting reviewed by Delmarva. It has to do with whether the participant that they serve gets sampled for a PCR. And the PCR sample is drawn randomly and drawn from approximately 2 people for each support coordinator or CDC consultant's caseload around the state. And that's kind of how the names get put into the hat and how folks get identified for a review. Who can participate in the provider discovery review? The most important thing that we need to emphasize is that the CDC Plus representative, the person who is the rep, who is on the paperwork, has to participate in the review. They have to be present. They can't ask a parent or a friend to sit in for them for the review process. We have to meet with the CDC representative. Apart from that, in terms of who can participate, whoever that representative or the CDC participant or their family members, whoever they might choose to have there. A representative might want their CDC Plus consultant to be present for the review, and that's perfectly acceptable. The one thing that is critical to understand is that the consultant cannot provide paperwork on the representative's behalf. The representative has to have all their paperwork and their own copies of their documentation. They cannot rely on the consultant to provide documentation for them. So a consultant, if they're going to join us for the review, really would be there to observe and kind of maybe for moral support if a representative chooses to have them present. other family members if they wish to be there, but our key role is sitting down with the CDC representative at the time and going through paper by paper to kind of show us the documentation. And that's what we're going to get into for this whole session as we go through what are the pieces of paper, what needs to be on there, what will the Delmarva reviewer be looking for. As far as scheduling and where the review will be held, the Delmarva reviewer will get in touch with the representative and talk with them about a convenient time that can be worked out for scheduling. We will try to the best of our abilities. We understand representatives are often busy, many of them work, so our reviewer will be able to accommodate wherever possible, maybe an evening appointment if that works better. As far as where the review takes place, we have a little bit of flexibility in that the representative can kind of pick a location that's comfortable and convenient for them. It could be in the family home if the representative is also a family member of that participant. If the representative lives outside their home, we might go to the representative's home. The representative may choose a neutral location or a place out in the community or a library. We're okay with that. We just ask that it's a place where there's some privacy and quiet so that we can be able to conduct a review and go through that without disturbing anyone else and certainly protect information if we're talking about individuals. So again, the scheduling piece and where it's located is something that the reviewer will work with the CDC representative in setting up. We do have non-compliance procedures. When we conduct reviews with providers in the waiver program, it's mandatory, much like it is now for CDC representative. And it made it necessary for us to put these procedures in place. More often than not, it is very rare that we get to the point of non-compliance. But it is important that I cover this slide and refer you to handout number 1, which will be posted again, that you'll be able to pull down, that will take you through our procedures. These procedures are really designed to outline that non-compliance would be a representative or someone who doesn't respond to at least 2 attempts for us to try to schedule reviews. Now, most of the important things is that the reviewer has a correct phone number and contact information for that representative. Reviewers are typically getting this information from your CDC consultant. They may be contacting your local area office and talking to an area liaison, but they're going to try to get current contact information for you. And then they'll be making a phone call. If they get voicemail, they'll be leaving a message identifying who they are and what their contact and asking you to call them back. If a reviewer has made at least 2 attempts to try to schedule the review and we're not getting any response or any phone call, we're going to verify that we have the correct contact information. We're going to let the area, but this potentially could land you in a position of what's called non-compliance. And non-compliance means that we essentially conduct the review, but every element, every standard within the review tool that we'll be going over today is scored as not met. So essentially the review goes on without you and you could potentially end up with a 0%. If you choose not to make records available, again, it's your choice if you choose and don't feel like you want to share the information with us, but you potentially can be scored non-compliant for that. If we make an appointment with you and you're a no-show after the review has been scheduled, and I'm not talking about if there was a good reason why you couldn't be there, a family emergency, there was an accident, it's if the review's scheduled and you just chose not to show up. Again, we would potentially be going into what's called our non-compliance procedures. You can read those in detail by referencing handout number 1. The key part to remember is that the reviewers will try to make sure they have correct information to try to contact you. They're going to talk to your consultant and they're going to contact the area office before we make any decision regarding non-compliance. The key part is return our phone calls. You can't avoid it, so please just return our calls, meet with us. It's much better. If you're worried about the documentation you have, meet with us. We'll go through it together and figure it out. The tool that I'm going to be referring to, the CDC Plus Representative